Right, I'm reading from my manifesto. Got a definitive title on it yet, so just gonna call it the Natural Resource Rights Manifesto and Equal Opportunity by Common Sense, because this is just common sense. I'll state it to you. Get right to it. What is a right? The Webster Dictionary describes it as qualities that constitute what is correct, just, proper, or honorable. Something as a power or privilege to which one has a just or lawful claim. If you were created or put into an ecosystem where you had to depend on something to survive, you would say that it is just, proper, and honorable that you have a right to that thing. Without a right to what you need to survive, your survival is in jeopardy, which puts anything else you have a right to automatically in jeopardy as well. We as human beings depend on the earth for our sustenance and survival. Therefore, to take from the Therefore, we have rights to take from the earth as we need. Every human has the right, and none shall be hindered in the pursuit of it by another human being or any other. If circumstances on the earth lead to a hard time, if natural circumstances on the earth lead to a hard time in the pursuit of this right, that's just the case. But one shouldn't be hindered by human efforts unless that person causes a dilemma that first hinders or would hinder others from their right. Furthermore, we should state that they be inalienable rights, also self-evident. Although not stated in the Constitution, I believe it is so obvious that it goes without stating. I don't believe I would have much argument in stating that the pursuit of the fruits of the earth are a right, but as to how we go about that pursuit, we may have many varying points. Man has for a long time tried to master nature with some success, but in recent years, with more complex inventions, we have come to the conclusion that in mimicking nature's design, we have the best template for our success. With that said, this isn't a new concept I created. It's what we had since the beginning. Free land to use and gather from. Where or when or how we lost it is not a concern. I want us to wake up from our stupor, realize our need, and reconnect with what we are entitled to. Whether most of us use it or not is not an aim, but I should convince most that free land access is beneficial to all of us. By freeing up the source of all, we free ourselves. And this is still on a notebook. I ain't even get it typed up yet, so I might struggle with trying to read my own handwriting, but I'll get through it. Some may think because privatization is such an efficient concept that we should tailor everything to construct such a system. No matter the negative symptoms it may cause to individuals in society, as long as they are in a minority, be it populace or power. Privatization is the ownership by one or a small group of individuals of natural resources for the main gain of the minority group over the rest of the public. A business can purchase land and in doing so prohibit others from benefiting from the natural resources on it directly. Compensation for everyone prohibited from working these lands is perceived to be in the form of monies paid to the government for the land and taxes paid, which the government should in turn use to benefit the people prohibited. But this is only a small fraction of the revenue generated by these lands. Taxes about 30%, while 70% of the income or profits go to a small number of people. More people would be better off working these lands freely and independently, which in turn would be best for the economic situation of the region by spreading more wealth amongst the people. To prohibit others from land that isn't currently being worked on is essentially to call dibs on a resource and is, in my eyes, a violation of my right to pursue these resources for my well-being. Nobody on earth that I know of created the water, the fish, the trees, the plants, the minerals, or animals. Therefore, nobody owns them or should prohibit others. I would state that we should agree that what a man puts forth his effort in pursuing or molds and fashions is in the bounds of his ownership. Therefore, putting a gate around land where majority of it will be occupied with work and in current time is reasonable. But biting off more than you can chew while others sit and want is greedy and is a violation to the rights of these people who could be working adjacent to your operation. But even before the prohibition of the resources by individuals or companies that paid for the land, some, may I say most of the people, were prohibited from it by the government by the very act of putting the land up for sale or claim in the first place. Basically just by privatizing public lands. If you don't have enough money to pay for it, you are way more than likely to be barred from the use of such lands, hence the violation. I advocate that these lands should be free for any individual to access and benefit from at all times and remain as public lands, the same as a park or a national park would. Not to mention, the only way to get money is contingent on how someone else approves of you. If you apply for a job, you must be approved of. If you sell a product or service, it must be approved of. To receive charity or a loan, you must be approved of. So a system where the means to your livelihood are based solely on you getting permission and or being approved of by another cannot be a reliable system to base your survival upon. I wouldn't suggest we all go into survival mode and only take care of our own needs, nor is the access to natural resources primarily about that. One of the good things about the system we have is that we do depend on each other. But we should always have an avenue open where a man can work free without prerequisite for downtimes in employment or otherwise. And natural resources is the only avenue where we have the legit right to work in such a manner. In order to get rich, you will need to have a service or product that people will want to buy from you. When it comes to natural resources, they are pretty much the same product for the industry you're in. Most apples are close to the same taste per type. Pure gold is pure gold no matter how you look at it. Most breed of cattle probably taste the same. Not only are the products similar to your competitors, regardless of your wealth or capabilities, but it's also the most simplest way to produce a product to sell. Digging doesn't take much know-how to do. Cutting a tree, fishing, farming are all things mostly any able-bodied human can do without as much as a few minutes of instruction. Not to downplay the science and technology that it takes to do it safely and efficiently, but all of these things can and have been done by low-tech means for centuries. Of course, a better equipped company will produce more and outsell lower-tech competitors. But people may find it profitable nonetheless, and besides, they have to start somewhere. Plus, the only thing they're investing is their time and energy, so it's all profit from there. But the main argument is the earth is a right for all people to benefit from freely based on survival and the fact that no other person made it, and therefore owned it. That is sufficient enough to close my case. Any further argument is just to prove extra reasons that aren't as important as the rights issue, but may convince die-hard opposition. And if you are die-hard opposition, I implore you to listen. Continue. Man has functioned to gather resources since the dawn of mankind without government interference. In fact, before we even invented government. Not to say the unregulated gathering of resources to sustain life hasn't had setbacks and flaws. I'm sure we may have overhunted some poor species into extinction and in recent history came close to doing it to others. Even over-farming an area has dire consequences. But as we have lived through these problems, we have learned what to do to avoid the negative outcomes. So man has learned without an overseer to guide and regulate us, meaning government. Individual desperation, ignorance, need, greed can overtake society's overall well-being, so that one may do something to jeopardize the longevity of a resource for an immediate benefit. This is human nature and a survival mechanism, but as information grew and our intelligence has increased, we now know we have alternatives to destructive behaviors. Once again, governmental order and authority helps to protect resources when people get greedy or weak. But governments have long been known to squander labor and resources on lavish or frivolous things also. Pyramids, sphinxes, palaces, and other great monuments were built with labor, be it slave or other, but I'm sure the general public were lacking out at some level. Government's behavior has improved as well, but in some instances not as much as its populace. But the bottom line is, even 2,000 years ago, we were responsible with gathering and handling resources. And although through technological advancements, our ability to change the face of the planet has increased significantly, I believe with some restriction, we are still big enough to play in the dirt. I became a libertarian third-party endorser in late 2011, after a book on economics left me with more questions than answers. I wanted to change the system and problems in the world so that everyone could benefit. At first, I thought a communist-type system would fix our problems. Later, upon hearing of various allegations of government corruption, smaller, less intrusive government that just did its basic functions and got out of the way to let people fill the social void seemed to be the archetype for good governance. Then, seeing the libertarian talk about their beliefs in the principles for freedom, liberty, and the non-aggression principle led me to naturally take hold of the model. Who wouldn't want freedom and to be free from aggression? Sounds like a smart choice to me. But all libertarians don't feel the same as I do on public natural resources. Most of the main party believes it's okay to privatize natural resources, whereas I can show that it goes against its own principles of non-aggression and freedom. Privatization of nature is adverse to my freedom to pursue God's gift, and your prohibition of what should be a public good is the aggression. There is another smaller group of libertarians who agree with this. They are the left wing of the Libertarian Party. Why is it that only a minute percentage of people believe or care to question our rights to access the earth? It would be like if you went into your job and a coworker said, I paid the boss for your job so you don't have to work anymore unless you can find another job in another department. You wouldn't like that, and I don't either. We all have a right to work. I don't have a right to work at Walmart, at your law firm, or even for the government, at least not without proper qualifications. But think about this. Farming is work. Fishing is work. Hunting is work. Mining is work. And all this plus others are just gathering what nature has provided for us all. That is the only work or job I feel we are entitled to as humans. If we allow public space to become private, we convert it into a Walmart situation where the public is restricted and lost out on what was accessible. This is the opposite of public lands. And as a metaphor, let's say if there was one park